And I don't know if you're aware of this, but you should be. Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred said he discussed Pete Rose with President Trump at a meeting 2 weeks ago. The commissioner plans to rule on a request to end the sport's permanent ban of Pete Rose, who died in September. Speaking yesterday to the Associated Press, the commissioner said he and the president discussed several issues, including concerns over how immigration policies could impact players from Cuba, Venezuela, and other foreign countries. The commissioner is considering a petition to have Rose posthumously removed from baseball's permanently ineligible list. The petition was filed in January, and we have talked about this many, many times. And I wondered, would he get in? And I was saying all along that if he got in, it would be posthumously, that the commissioner was not going to let Pete Rose go up there and give a speech. If anybody was going to do it, it'd be somebody in Pete's family after Pete had died. But this just gets him back on the ballot. If they want to do that, fine. Because people look at it as a lifetime ban. This is a permanent ban. So his lifetime, it's over, but he's still banned. That's why the permanent part of this is the key part of this. If this was a lifetime ban, well, his life is ended. Now, if you want to vote on this, you want to put him on the ballot, but the president's involved in this, and don't underestimate that. Because the number of people who would love to have Pete in the Hall of Fame as opposed to those who would oppose this, I would say would be a pretty wide margin, those in favor of Pete Rose. And I know we're shoulder deep in gambling here, and now moving forward, do we take away the permanent label, that word? Because if I'm the 1919 White Sox or Shoeless Joe Jackson, all of a sudden I go, well, hold on here. If you're a relative of Shoeless Joe Jackson, do you say, well, wait a minute here. We had a permanent ban. Should it be a lifetime ban? Our life is over. Can somebody kind of pick up the baton here and get them into the Baseball Hall of Fame? That's going on right now. And could I see a scenario where the commissioner puts Pete or allows Pete to be eligible for the ballot? Now, does he have a better chance? Like the Veterans Committee, are they going to look favorably to Pete? All the years that he hijacked Cooperstown? I'd like to know, I'd like to get a consensus of how that's going to go with the Veterans Committee. Because there are a lot of players who were not in Pete's corner. Because Pete never showed any contrition. He never really apologized. But that's what made Pete great. Lance Armstrong, he never apologized. Bonds never apologized. Clemens never. That's what made them great. They needed to have that, I didn't do anything wrong. You did. And Pete, look, when he came on my radio show years ago and said that he bet on the Reds to win every game. And then people go, hey, well, that's what you want. Well, you can still manipulate the lineup. I mean, no, you can't bet on your team. But people, I think, thought that, well, at least he's not betting against his team. That we know of. Do you think Pete would actually say, I bet against my team a few times? Because you want to win your bets. You don't care. And would I think Pete would put himself in a position like that? Yes, I would. Because he was not a good gambler. But I think that this is probably headed towards Pete being eligible for the ballot. I do. I think that's where we're headed. Because when you meet with the president wants this to happen. The president gets to take a victory lap. But he's also saying to the commissioner, hey, I can affect some of these other things that you're dealing with. You help me here, I'll help you here. And I truly think that's what's going to happen. I think this commissioner will put him on the ballot, and then he can wipe his hands clean of this. He can say, all right, I listened to the president. We put him on the ballot, and I'm going to let the Veterans Committee decide. Now, would he be on the regular ballot or would he be on the Veterans Committee? Since he hasn't been on the regular baseball ballot, I would think you should go through that process with Pete before you get to the Veterans Committee. Does it say anything about that, Paulie?
We're checking. Back in 1991, the Hall of Fame's board of directors said anyone on the permanently ineligible list cannot be considered for the Hall. So that's why he was never on the ballot. We're checking what ballot he would be on.
Because if you just say we're going to change it to a lifetime ban, okay, the semantics of that, because a permanent ban, it doesn't matter. Hey, you died and you're posthumously going to be on the ballot. Now, that can't happen.
If Rose is reinstated, it doesn't mean he would be automatically on the Hall of Fame ballot. He would first have to be nominated by the Hall's Historical Overview Committee, which is the Baseball Writers Association. It's a small group. And then he would end up on the ballot. So he has to be voted to be on the ballot to be on the ballot.
All right.